Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Chandna.
And I'm Resha Sehgal. On the show today, 5 days after his assassination attempt, former US President Donald Trump will be addressing the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. Well, in his speech, Trump will formally accept the GOP nomination for president and will also rally around the broader theme of unity. We will be tracking that on World DNA today.
Also on the show, we bring you more updates on what else is happening on the West Asian front. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be meeting US President Joe Biden next week and will address the US Congress. Meanwhile, on the battleground, the Israeli military has said that it has killed the commander of a Hamas-allied group in southern Lebanon. We are going to be tracking those developments closely as well. Let's get you started with the headlines.
Trump arrives at Republican National Convention ahead of his nomination and speech draws a standing ovation from attendees.
US President Joe Biden is taking calls to step aside as the Democratic presidential candidate seriously, as multiple Democratic officials believe an exit is a matter of time.
Former US President Barack Obama has told allies that Joe Biden needs to reconsider his re-election bid, says the Washington Post report.
Ukrainian President Zelensky acknowledges in an interview that a victory for Donald Trump in the US election would be difficult for his country, but Ukrainians are prepared.
US President Joe Biden is still expected to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu when he visits Washington next week, but it will depend on his recovery from COVID-19, says the White House.
Bangladesh students set fire to the state broadcaster's building as protests against civil service hiring rules escalate. The death toll mounts to at least 39. Authorities impose a near-total internet blackout.
Three passengers have died and over 30 are injured after several coaches of the Chandigarh-Dibrugarh express train derailed in Uttar Pradesh's Gonda on Thursday, high-level probe ordered.
Bob Newhart, the American stand-up performer whose comedy made him one of the top TV stars of his era, died. He was 94 years old.
Just 5 days after surviving an assassination attempt, Donald Trump is set to address the Republican National Convention to accept his party's presidential nomination in a speech designed to unify his party and also the nation.
Now, the 78-year-old will address the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, hoping to build momentum towards a November victory over US President Joe Biden. Trump's speech will mark the climax and conclusion of a massive 4-day Republican rally that drew thousands of conservative activists and elected officials to swing state Wisconsin. Apart from Trump, the most prominent speakers at the 4th day will be former Fox News host Tucker Carlson, wrestling icon Hulk Hogan, who just spoke recently, and Ultimate Fighting Championship President Dana White. Trump appeared each of the first 3 days with a white bandage on his ear, the ear on which he was shot, covering a wound he sustained in the Saturday shooting. Some of his supporters have started sporting their own bandages on the convention floor.
So far, the convention has showcased a Republican Party reshaped by Trump since he shocked the GOP establishment and won over the party's grassroots on his way to the party's 2016 nomination. Trump's rival have almost vanquished which includes Senator Ted Cruz of Texas and Marco Rubio of Florida, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, and also Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. And these are the live visuals from Milwaukee, where in just a short while from now, former US President Donald Trump will be addressing the attendees there. Just a short while ago, his son, Eric Trump, addressed the crowd in Milwaukee. Well, according to reports and people close to the Republican Party, Trump is expected to send a message of unity. And he earlier said that his speech, that he had rewritten his RNC speech after the assassination attempt on the former US president just 5 days ago.
And Resha, of course, on the screen right now, we have J.D. Vance, who's the vice presidential candidate for the Republicans. And of course, his address happened just yesterday. And that is sort of a glimpse into what we can expect from Trump's address, which is expected to start just moments from now.
And well, for more on this, joining us on the show, we have with us political analyst and radio show host Garland Nixon, live from Maryland, US. Welcome to World DNA, sir. Now, Trump is just about to address the RNC in just a short while from now. And he said that he has rewritten his RNC speech and would rather offer a message of unity. What can we expect from his speech? Any big revelations in your opinion?
No, I think that we probably can't expect big revelations. I think we can expect a message of unity, a message of strength from Donald Trump. I think he wants to show stability. He's going to be quite welcome. I think Donald Trump wants to come out as the adult in the room. We've been listening to his son and various other people who have tied all of the things that have happened to Donald Trump over the last several years, including, being accused of being a Russian agent. He's been faced numerous investigations and lawsuits, and they actually tied that to the assassination attempt on him last week. I think we can see we can expect to see Donald Trump to come out as the responsible adult in the room. I think that's the position that he wants to take. Donald Trump has a history as an entertainer, a history in television. So I think he understands the importance of the narrative and the importance of how he looks here. The opposing party is pretty much in disarray, and I think Donald Trump is going to work to show stability more than anything
Mr. Nixon, now there was a lot of, there have been reports and analysts, people have been thinking about this and saying it too, that there have been some changes, or there would have been some changes in the past 5 days, ever since that failed assassination bid, in Trump's speech. If you were to think about how he could have altered his speech, how would you consider, what are the changes do you think Trump would have made to those speeches that he's expected to make today?
Well, Donald Trump tends to be brash. He tends to be aggressive, and his style tends to be an attacking style, to go after his enemy. I would have expected him to go after Joe Biden, to go after Kamala Harris on their records, to single them out, to single out the difficulties that the country has had during the Biden administration in an aggressive and assertive way. I don't think Donald Trump's going to do that now. He has said, in fact, something that I believe, and that is that, having an experience where your life was threatened changes you. So I think a combination of the experience changing the way that Donald Trump looks at the world, and the disarray in the party, as we're hearing even today that Joe Biden may have less than a few days left as the nominee. Again, I think he wants to show that his party is stable, that he would provide a stable administration and a stable guiding hand for the country. I would suspect that that's going to be his angle.
Yeah, Mr. Nixon, I just want to take from what you just mentioned that, and of course we all know that Donald Trump has been a little brash and a little aggressive in his ways. As of now, given the way he exited the stage on that day in Pennsylvania, and he, pointed towards the camera, that photograph which we'll be seeing for ages, and saying fight, 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 and echoes of that we also heard in the earlier days of the RNC with all the Republican supporters, echoing in unison, fight, fight, fight. We've heard those chants. Do you feel that entire brash approach, or that kind of aggressive approach, is going to go in his favor now, because when you see that entire body language after a failed assassination bid, it changes everything.
Yes, but I do believe that he'll have kind of dual messages. The message that he will have for his immediate supporters will be one of, we have to fight back against the Democratic Party. He argues that the party is is attacking the culture, the foundation of what he sees as America, and what his followers see culturally and spiritually as the foundation of America, patriotism, etc. So I think he's going to make the message to his supporters that they need to fight back against their adversaries. But I think, keep in mind, he has to appeal to people who aren't Republicans. He has to appeal to the independents. So I think there'll be dual messages. I think there will be something in his speech for his foundation, for his base. But I think there will also be something in his speech for the independents and for those that he has to attract outside of the party.
And Mr. Nixon, it does look like that the Republican camp slogan of Make America Great Again has now taken a shift towards Make America One Again. How do you assess Trump's speech, which we will just hear in a short while from now, uniting Republicans and Americans on one hand, while on the other, the Democrats are bitterly divided about whether Biden should continue to lead the Democrat ticket or not?
Well, one of the things you have to keep in mind is that prior to the assassination attempt, Donald Trump was leading Joe Biden in most of the battleground states and most of the areas that he needed to win. So he was predicted to win prior to the assassination attempt. So to some extent, he can maintain the course and speed that he was going on a lot of the issues. Donald Trump will definitely go strong on immigration, in that is dealing with immigration is a popular issue. I think he also understands right now that our economic situation is uncomfortable for the working class. So I think you can see a strong appeal to the working class. I just don't think that he will use the same type of frontal attacks on his opponents that he normally does. Additionally, since many people feel that Joe Biden will be gone before the end of the weekend, I think he's going to start to go in another direction as far as Kamala Harris and other Democrats that he goes after. I don't think it'll be as much about Biden as the individual as it will about the failures of the Biden administration politically overall.
Mr. Nixon, now if I were to just go over J.D. Vance's address, which happened just yesterday, of course, he did mention a few things. One was, of course, regarding China, that, how China is building its middle class on the backs of American people. And another reference, of course, was to, NATO, where he said there are going to be no more free rides. And, of course, I wanted to understand from you, when it comes to America's internal and external policies, in Trump's reign, how do you feel? Because whatever J.D. Vance said, it's a prelude to what we are expecting to hear from Trump today. What can we expect in Trump's term if he comes back to power next?
Well, I would advise people to, because keep in mind, J.D. Vance is the vice president, and in our particular system, the vice president doesn't have much power. The president has all the power. I would advise people, yes, to listen to J.D. Vance's speech, but also to read. There was an interview of Donald Trump in Bloomberg about 2 weeks ago, and I think you can get a lot from that speech. In that speech, one of the things that Donald Trump said very clearly is that he does not want any more wars. He actually talked about China, and he said, well, there's some issues economically, but he actually spoke fondly of the leader of China, President Xi. So I think under a Trump administration, what you can see would probably see is far less militarism, more diplomacy, less of a threatening military stance that the threatening military stance that the Biden administration has taken, and more of a focus on dealing with other countries through the lens of how it helps to rebuild the industrial base in America. So I think that his focus is going to be rebuilding the industrial base of America, and protectionism and tariffs, et cetera, old school, old fashioned protectionism. Whether that works in a financialized economy such as this, that I can't tell you, but I think you'll see more of diplomatic and economic maneuvers to confront, as it were, the countries that he sees as adversaries as opposed to military threats.
But Mr. Nixon, while we're about to witness Trump's speech at the RNC after 5 days of assassination, there's also an attempt by both the sides, Democrats and Republicans, to bring the political temperature in the U.S. down. How do you see the campaigning take place for the U.S. polls going forward after Trump's assassination attempt?
Well, basically there won't be, I don't think, in the immediacy, I think there won't be the dirty political attacks and the frontal political attacks on each other, particularly in the context of threats to America. I don't think you're going to see the parties point to the other candidate as a threat to America, a threat to our freedom, a threat to our liberty, etc., trying to tie Donald Trump to, Vladimir Putin in a negative way, etc. I think you're going to see less of those. It's going to be difficult for the Democratic Party, to be frank, because over the past 4 years, the economic record of the Biden administration has not been good, and during Donald Trump's administration, the economic his economic record was strong. So if they run on they're going to have to run a lot more on their actual records, which probably benefits Donald Trump, to be frank.
Mr. Nixon, if we were to just compare the two camps at this point, here you have Donald Trump chest thumping, all this, the 5 days of the RNC. We've seen everyone in unison. We've seen how things have changed in the past 5 days. Now, seeing how fast things have totally tipped in Trump's favor and the Republicans' favor in the past 5 days, what do the Democrats need at this point to still be in the race? That is one. And secondly, is it too early to say that Democrats are no longer in the race at all? Or is there still some hope left?
Yes. What do the Democrats need? They need a miracle. They need an absolute miracle at this point for a number of reasons. As I said before, what people have to keep in mind is the Democrats weren't doing well before this. The economic record of the United States was not doing well. One of the things that you hear on the streets, with the common working class person in America are complaints about the numbers of dollars that have been gone overseas for military confrontations at a time when common working class people are struggling and suffering, and we're dealing with very high inflation. So right now, the Democrats' record of the last 4 years of being a very militaristic party and of ignoring the needs of the working class is simply coming back to haunt them. Now, the Republicans are going to make claims that they're going to address that, and quite frankly, I think they're going to get the opportunity. Things have gone from bad to worse for the Democrats, and of course, they're in total disarray. What we're going to see now is a party in which the ruling elite selects a candidate. The voters will have no input whatsoever because Joe Biden's dropping out. There's no one in second place. So the ruling elite members of the party will simply select someone and ask the voters to support that person. And I don't think that's going to work very well.
Right, Mr. Nixon, thank you so much for joining us in World DNA with your insights. We'll, of course, be analyzing Trump's historic speech at the RNC, which will take place in just a few minutes from now. Thank you so much for joining us in World DNA.
Thank you for inviting me.
Resha, of course, there was a lot to discuss there. There's a lot to expect as and when Trump comes in. As of now, there are, of course, a lot of these performances going on at the moment. I'm guessing this is Kid Rock who's on stage, and we earlier saw Hulk Hogan on stage. So it's a complete red wave that we're seeing. This is the RNC, and Trump is expected to speak moments from now. One can expect him to make certain statements which one will be able to gauge what America's internal and external policies are going to be based on. It is kind of a window into that. That is what makes it so consequential and pivotal to hear what Trump has to say at this moment.
Right, Shivin. Visuals on your screens right now. Long-time Trump supporter Kid Rock is performing at the RNC stage, and we're expecting former U.S. President Donald Trump to speak after this performance. We can see Trump supporters there with bandage on their ears, thumping and supporting the former U.S. president. It does look like that the Republican camp's slogan and the agenda of Make America Great Again has somehow taken a shift towards Make America One Again, because we are expecting former U.S. President Donald Trump's speech to largely peg on the theme of unity after the assassination attempt which took place just 5 days ago.
And we've seen a lot of these people, a lot of the supporters in the crowd they're almost wearing that bandage on the right ear as a statement of support for Trump. That goes without saying, but also as a statement that they wish to fight. And we have heard echoes of those fight, fight, fight chants across the RNC supporters and the people in attendance here as well. It all started in the last 5 years. And of course, there is lots to discuss, and at least one can speculate at this moment what Trump is expected to say. There are a lot of pointers there that one can hope that he would be speaking on. And
absolutely, according to speech experts, they're expecting that the former U.S. President Donald Trump will outline his vision for America and describe the assassination attempt largely on discord and division in a society must be healed. Well, to talk more on Trump's speech, which we are about to witness in a short while from now, we're now being joined by Voice of America correspondent Catherine Gibson, live from outside the convention center in Milwaukee. Catherine, going into this final night of the RNC, Democrats' calls are growing louder for President Biden to withdraw from the race. In fact, a latest poll by AP shows that nearly two-thirds of Democrats want him to step down and for the party to nominate someone else. How is that playing out at the convention today?
Well, a lot of the delegates that I spoke to here at the Republican National Convention didn't address the Biden issue too terribly much. They were far more focused on the assassination attempt on President Trump last weekend. So many of them felt so grateful to be here. They talked about how they felt that this gave even more energy to the campaign, that they were going to go out into the country for the rest of this election season and talk about and share with undecided voters how they felt about President Trump and how they felt that this was an important turning point in his candidacy, that he was changed by it somehow. And that's the message that we've been told to expect here in Milwaukee, is that instead of delivering attacks against President Joe Biden, he's going to be delivering a message of unity, bringing all Americans together and talking about his America First agenda that focuses on the needs of American voters here at home, rather than the U.S. getting involved in foreign conflicts.
Catherine, it's interesting, where you're standing, it's right outside the convention center. We see the vehicle behind you saying, "Make America Great Once Again." Of course, that's the sentiment inside as well. But you mentioned earlier that, how most of the people you spoke with, none of them are bringing up the Biden issue too much. Is Biden not an issue for the Republican camp anymore? That, and also do talk to us about what to expect from Trump's speech, which is scheduled to start moments from now.
Absolutely. So right behind me, as we understand it, there is still a musical performance going on. Trump has not yet taken the stage. Some of the delegates that I spoke to here in Milwaukee said that, well, this election would be a referendum on the Biden presidency. They were far more focused on the future, on looking ahead to what President Trump would do in a second term, bringing the American economy as they saw it back to the strong position that happened during his first term, that they would stop getting involved in foreign conflicts, that there would overall be a sense of hope that they at least have felt hasn't been happening during the Biden presidency. So while there is some mention of President Biden, they haven't been really talking about whether or not he's going to step aside, because as they see it, the delegates see it, President Trump is going to win regardless.
You're standing outside, so I just wanted to let you know, we have visuals in front of us with Dana White on stage. He's the president of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Of course, we know that Trump has made his way to several of these high-profile fights which the UFC hosts, and this time we see Dana White on the RNC stage. At the moment, of course, there is a lot of support that Trump has had from several people across different industries. We also saw Hulk Hogan standing here earlier. We saw Kid Rock performing just moments ago. What kind of a sentiment do you find Trump bringing in? Because this is an America which we've not seen in the last few years. The kind of atmosphere that we're seeing here at the RNC at this moment. And does that give a glimpse of what kind of external and internal policies Trump would be coming with?
I don't think anybody should be reading into what kind of policies that Trump would be advocating because of the guests that we've seen here. I think that these are people that are drawn to the Trump brand, so they are chosen to speak at the Republican National Convention. And we certainly have had an atmosphere here in the U.S. as the nation climbs out of COVID of, lightness, of joy. This isn't a turning point as I see it. The thing that has struck me, having covered the 2016 convention in person, that was a much darker Republican National Convention. The speech that Trump gave on that final evening was much darker, talking about American carnage, talking about the blood in the streets. We have been led to expect, and, obviously he hasn't spoken here yet tonight, that this tonight will be a very different tone, that it will be more a tone of unity, partly because of the assassination attempt that he underwent last weekend. So I'll be very interested to see if there's a contrast.
Right, Catherine, does look like that Republican camp slogan will shift from Make America Great Again towards Make America One Again. Now, after the convention, Trump will hit the campaign trail again. How has the assassination attempt last weekend changed the campaign, changed their approach to the events?
Well, after I'm here in Milwaukee, I'm going to fly right back to Washington, D.C., where we're going to have a series of oversight hearings on Capitol Hill. U.S. lawmakers, particularly Republican lawmakers, have demanded answers from the United States Secret Service about how there could be a security failure of this magnitude. They're going to be investigating how that shooter was able to get so close to former President Trump and see if there were any security breakdowns at the local level. Remember, it's not just the United States Secret Service that protects the president at those rallies, but they also bring in police enforcement from the local areas. So there's still a lot of questions. We can expect certainly a amped up security atmosphere when former President Trump does go out on the campaign trail. And remember, he'll also have his vice presidential candidate campaigning with him, J.D. Vance. So even more security for the United States Secret Service to worry about.
Now, I know at this point it is a bit too early to be discussing it, but I do want to get your thoughts on this because this is something which is coming up again and again, at least on the global stage. Ukraine seems to be quite unnerved with Trump's presidency. I just want to understand, is there any word that you've heard regarding how Trump would want to deal with the ongoing war with Russia, between Ukraine and Russia?
Well, the vice presidential candidate, J.D. Vance, who is just named as the vice presidential candidate, has been very, very strong about the U.S. not getting involved in foreign conflicts. He has decried U.S. sending aid to Ukraine. That's going to be a major issue. We're hearing tonight that President Trump has a call scheduled with President Zelensky sometime early next week. We'll have a better sense of what the two men have worked out. Of course, remember that President Trump has not been reelected yet. There is still the chance of a Biden or Harris term and Democrats staying in power, which, of course, would be a boon for Ukraine and continuing U.S. aid to Ukraine.
Right, Catherine, for the past few minutes, we have been talking about how Trump's speech is pegged on the broader vision of unity. While Trump's assassination attempt has united the Republican front, there are divisions within the Democrats, with growing calls for Biden to step down. How do you assess that panning out at the RNC today?
Well, it's been interesting to see those calls from Democratic lawmakers increase while the Republican National Convention has been going on. There had been some thinking here in the United States that would simmer down. The U.S. Congress is out of session. They are not in Washington, D.C. They are all out in their states, and the Republican lawmakers are, of course, here at the Republican National Convention. So the thinking had been that the talks wouldn't be increasing, but we've had a series of interviews from President Biden where he has stumbled over a couple of names, and of course, he was diagnosed with COVID and has had to go and self-isolate at his house in Delaware. We've heard increasing reports that Democratic leaders, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, have been quietly pushing behind the scenes, making the case to Biden that the polling data they are seeing is saying that he is not going to be able to win in November. And they're very, very concerned that if he is still on the ticket, that he will drag down those down ballot races, the U.S. Senate races, the U.S. House races. Democrats will not keep control of those two chambers, and Republicans will win it all. So they are making that case to President Biden, and he is, of course, has some time to think over those pleas from congressional Democrats.
Catherine, now you mentioned earlier that in 2016 you were at the RNC at that time as well. Of course, it's 2024. You're right outside the convention center. If you were to draw some parallels, you did mention that there was a lot of difference. That time it was darker. This time the atmosphere is completely different. What kind of parallels do you draw, or what kind of differences do you see between then and now? 2016 Trump, 2024 Trump.
I see a much more tight messaging from Republicans, from the Republican delegates. They understand the issues that they need to make their case on. They have a lot stronger belief in President Trump. And of course, that makes sense because in 2016, they hadn't yet seen him in the Oval Office. Now they have the memory of those 4 years. They want him to come back after these 4 years of President Biden. They're much more open to speaking with the media. It has been a striking difference in terms of how they want to get their message out.
Catherine, I think as you're outside, I'm just giving you a glimpse of what we're seeing on the screens in front of us. Trump has just made his way to the stage. And of course, we have Trump written right behind him. There's a huge ovation that he's getting, and he's standing right there. Of course, no shot of his is without the bandage that he has on his right ear, which we've seen several people in the crowd wearing as well. I think he's just about to start his speech. He's making his way to the podium as we speak.
Right, final thoughts from you, Catherine. Trump has said that he rewrote his speech after the assassination attempt, which we will be hearing in just moments from now. According to sources, he has also said that he will not mention Biden. What do you have to say on that?
That's right. He is reportedly not going to mention President Joe Biden. We've also heard reports that this speech is going to go as long as 90 minutes. I will be very interested to see if the former president refrains from mentioning President Biden. Of course, his vice presidential candidate, J.D. Vance, talked about President Biden in his acceptance speech last night. I would be very surprised if President Trump does not do that tonight.
All right, Catherine, thank you so much for sharing all your insights. I think you'll also need to tune into exactly all that Trump is saying. We will be connecting later for more to discuss. Thank you. That was Catherine Gibson, Voice of America correspondent, joining us from outside the convention center in Milwaukee.
And Shivan, moments from now, that's the former US President Donald Trump on the stage on the final day of the RNC. And I think we are about to hear what exactly Trump has to say.
Look at him, just soaking it all in, just hearing those cheers, phones in everyone's hand, people waving their hats. Of course, you see the America flags, in everyone's hands.
Thank you very, very much. Wow.
There he goes. There he starts. Let's listen in.
And thank you, Dana. Thank you, Kid Rock, sometimes referred to as Bob. And thank you, Lee, right from the beginning. Thank you very much. What a talent. What a beautiful, beautiful song. Thank you. Friends, delegates, and fellow citizens, I stand before you this evening with a message of confidence, strength, and hope. 4 months from now, we will have an incredible victory, and we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. Together we will launch a new era of safety, prosperity, and freedom for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. The discord and division in our society must be healed. We must heal it quickly. As Americans, we are bound together by a single fate and a shared destiny. We rise together or we fall apart. I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America. So tonight, with faith and devotion, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we will do it right. We're going to do it right. Let me begin this evening by expressing my gratitude to the American people for your outpouring of love and support following the assassination attempt at my rally on Saturday. As you already know, the assassin's bullet came within a quarter of an inch of taking my life. So many people have asked me, what happened? Tell us what happened, please. And therefore, I will tell you exactly what happened, and you'll never hear it from me a second time because it's actually too painful to tell. It was a warm, beautiful day in the early evening in Butler Township in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Music was loudly playing, and the campaign was doing really well. I went to the stage, and the crowd was cheering wildly. Everybody was happy. I began speaking very strongly, powerfully, and happily, because I was discussing the great job my administration did on immigration at the southern border. We were very proud of it. Behind me and to the right was a large screen that was displaying a chart of border crossings under my leadership. The numbers were absolutely amazing. In order to see the chart, I started to, like this, turn to my right and was ready to begin a little bit further turn, which I'm very lucky I didn't do, when I heard a loud whizzing sound and felt something hit me really, really hard on my right ear. I said to myself, wow, what was that? It can only be a bullet. And moved my right hand to my ear, brought it down. My hand was covered with blood, just absolutely blood all over the place. I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack, and in one movement proceeded to drop to the ground. Bullets were continuing to fly as very brave Secret Service agents rushed to the stage, and they really did. They rushed to the stage. These are great people, at great risk, I will tell you, and pounced on top of me so that I would be protected. There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side. I felt that. The amazing thing is that prior to the shot, if I had not moved my head at that very last instant, the assassin's bullet would have perfectly hit its mark, and I would not be here tonight. We would not be together. The most incredible aspect of what took place on that terrible evening in the fading sun was actually seen later. In almost all cases, as you probably know, and when even a single bullet is fired, just a single bullet, and we had many bullets that were being fired, crowds run for the exits or stampede, but not in this case. It's very unusual. This massive crowd of tens of thousands of people stood by and didn't move an inch. In fact, many of them bravely but automatically stood up looking for where the sniper would be. They knew immediately it was a sniper. And then began pointing at him. You can see that if you look at the group behind me. That was just a small group compared to what was in front. Nobody ran, and by not stampeding, many lives were saved. But that isn't the reason that they didn't move. The reason is that they knew I was in very serious trouble. They saw it. They saw me go down. They saw the blood and thought, actually most did, that I was dead. They knew it was a shot to the head. They saw the blood. And there's an interesting statistic. The ears are the bloodiest part. If something happens with the ears, they bleed more than any other part of the body. For whatever reason, the doctors told me that. I said, why is there so much blood? He said, it's the ears. They bleed more. So we learned something, but they just, this beautiful crowd, they didn't want to leave me. They knew I was in trouble. They didn't want to leave me. And you can see that love written all over their faces. Incredible people. They're incredible people. Bullets were flying over us, yet I felt serene. But now the Secret Service agents were putting themselves in peril. They were in very dangerous territory. Bullets were flying right over them, missing them by a very small amount of inches. And then it all stopped. Our Secret Service sniper, from a much greater distance and with only one bullet used, took the assassin's life, took him out. I'm not supposed to be here tonight. Not supposed to be here.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yeah. Thank you. But I'm not. And I'll tell you, I stand before you in this arena only by the grace of Almighty God. In watching the reports over the last few days, many people say it was a providential moment. Probably was. When I rose, surrounded by Secret Service, the crowd was confused because they thought I was dead, and there was great, great sorrow. I could see that on their faces as I looked out. They didn't know I was looking out. They thought it was over. But I could see it, and I wanted to do something to let them know I was okay. I raised my right arm, looked at the thousands and thousands of people that were breathlessly waiting, and started shouting, "Fight, fight, fight." Thank you. Once my clenched fist went up, and it was high into the air. You've all seen that. The crowd realized I was okay and roared with pride for our country like no crowd I have ever heard before. Never heard anything like it. For the rest of my life, I will be grateful for the love shown by that giant audience of patriots that stood bravely on that fateful evening in Pennsylvania. Tragically, the shooter claimed the life of one of our fellow Americans, Corey Comparator. Unbelievable person, everybody tells me. Unbelievable. And seriously wounded, two other great warriors. Spoke to them today. David Dutch and James Copenhaver, two great people. I also spoke to all three families of these tremendous people. Our love and prayers are with them, and always will be. We're never going to forget them. They came for a great rally. They were serious Trumpsters, I want to tell you. They were serious Trumpsters, and still are. But Corey, unfortunately, we have to use the past tense. He was incredible. He was a highly respected former fire chief, respected by everybody. Was accompanied by his wife, Helen, incredible woman. I spoke to her today, devastated, and two precious daughters. He lost his life selflessly, acting as a human shield to protect them from flying bullets. He went right over the top of them and was hit. What a fine man he was. I want to thank the fire department and the family for sending his helmet, his outfit, and it was just something, and they're going to do something very special when they get it. But we did something which cannot match what happened, not even close. But I am very proud to say that over the past few days, we've raised $6.3 million for the families of David, James, and Corey, including from a friend of mine just called up. He sent me a check right here. I just got it. $1 million from Dan Newland. Thank you, Dan. And again, when speaking to the family, I told them, I said, well, I'm going to be sending you a lot of money, but it can't compensate. They all said the same thing. You're right, sir. We appreciate so much what you're doing, but nothing can take the place in the case of Corey. And the other two, by the way, they were very, very seriously injured, but now they're doing very well. They're going to be okay. They're going to be doing very well. They're warriors. So now I ask that we observe a moment of silence in honor of our friend Corey. There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for others. This is the spirit that forged America in her darkest hours, and this is the love that will lead America back to the summit of human achievement and greatness. This is what we need. Despite such a heinous attack, we unite this evening more determined than ever. I am more determined than ever, and so are you. So is everybody in this room. Thank you very much. Our resolve is unbroken and our purpose is unchanged to deliver a government that serves the American people better than ever before. Nothing will stop me in this mission because our vision is righteous and our cause is pure. No matter what obstacle comes our way, we will not break, we will not bend, we will not back down, and I will never stop fighting for you, your family, and our magnificent country. Never. And everything I have to give with all of the energy and fight in my heart and soul, I pledge to our nation tonight. Thank you very much. I pledge that to our nation. We're going to turn our nation around, and we're going to do it very quickly. Thank you. This election should be about the issues facing our country and how to make America successful, safe, free, and great again. In an age when our politics too often divide us, now is the time to remember that we are all fellow citizens. We are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we must not criminalize dissent or demonize political disagreement, which is what's been happening in our country lately at a level that nobody has ever seen before. In that spirit, the Democrat Party should immediately stop weaponizing the justice system and labeling their political opponent as an enemy of democracy. Especially since that is not true. In fact, I am the one saving democracy for the people of our country. And very big news, as you probably just read, on Monday a major ruling was handed down from a highly respected federal judge in Florida, Eileen Cannon, finding that the prosecutor and the fake documents case against me were totally unconstitutional, and the entire case was thrown out of court. With all of that publicity, thrown out of court. If Democrats want to unify our country, they should drop these partisan witch hunts, which I have been going through for approximately 8 years. And they should do that without delay and allow an election to proceed that is worthy of our people. We're going to win it anyway, but worthy of. On this journey, I am deeply honored to be joined by my amazing wife, Melania. And Melania, thank you very much. You also did something really beautiful, a letter to America calling for national unity, and it really took the Republican Party by surprise. I will tell you, it was beautiful. In fact, some very serious people said that we should take that letter and put it as part of the Republican platform. That would be an honor, wouldn't it? Right, Mr. Congressman? But it captivated so many, so I also want to thank my entire family for being here. Don, Kimberly, Ivanka and Jared, Eric and Lara, Tiffany and Michael, Barron. We love our Barron. And of course, my 10 wonderful grandchildren. You saw a few of them up there on my lap before. And how good was Dana? Was Dana good? I mean, was he good? You know, he was on probably the only vacation he's had in about, maybe ever, because he works, but about 10 years with his wife, very far away. I won't tell you where, but very, very far away, beautiful place. And my people called, and he said, "Yeah, I won't be able to do it. This is many, many years. I promised my wife I can't do it." And they came in, they said, "Dana won't be able to do it," because he was my first, second, and third choice. I said, "Well, you know, that's too bad, but I understand he's away, and it's good. It's good for him." And that was it. About 30 minutes later, she came back in, "Sir, Dana just called. He's going to do it." And his wife, she said, "You can't turn him down. You just can't do it. You have to go." That's a good wife. So he got on a plane. He got here a little while ago. Now he's going to get on the plane in a little while, and he's going to go back home to his wife. But they're great, and I just want to thank her and him and their whole family, because that's not easy. And Kid Rock, same thing. Called, he said, "I want to be a part of it. I want to be a part," because, you know, Kid does his great song, Big, Big Monster song. I had no idea. You know, he became a friend of mine over the last 10 years. And he's amazing. Everyone loves him. I didn't even know how big he was. You know, he has rallies, 35, 40,000 people he gets every time he goes out. I think he's making so much money, he doesn't know what the hell to do with it. You want to know? And then we have my other friend, and I've known him so long, and we took that song, and it was a big success, but we made that. I saw a chart of great songs to America. That was #1 on the chart recently, #1. So that's Lee Greenwood, a very special, beautiful person. He's a beautiful man. But they all wanted to be here. They called. And how about the Hulkster? How good was he? Is he up? Where is he? Boy, oh boy. You know, they may call that entertainment. I know about entertainment, but when he used to lift a 350-pound man over his shoulders and then bench press him 2 rows into the audience, I say, maybe entertainment, but he is one strong son of a gun. I'm going to tell you, I watched it many times. There aren't a lot of entertainers that can do that, right? You were fantastic. Thank you very much. Followed by Eric. What was that all about? Boy, that was good. I didn't want to really come up here. But he was so great, and he's such a good young man. He went through a lot of trouble, and Don last night was incredible. He went through so much trouble. They got subpoenaed more than any people probably in the history of the United States. Every week they get another subpoena from the Democrats, crazy Nancy Pelosi, the whole thing, just boom, boom, boom. They've got to stop that because they're destroying our country. We have to work on making America great again, not on beating people. And we won. We beat them and all. We beat them on the impeachments. We beat them on indictments. We beat them. But the time that you have to spend, if they would devote that genius to helping our country, we'd have a much stronger and better country. And Jason, the biggest star in country music. Jason, thank you for being here. Jason, thank you very much. Jason Aldean, he's good. I like his wife even better, by the way. She's here. Thank you, Jason. But I'm thrilled to have a new friend and partner fighting by my side. The next Vice President of the United States, the current Senator from Ohio, J.D. Vance, and his incredible wife, Usha. He's going to be a great Vice President. He's going to be great. He'll be with this country and with this movement, greatest movement in the history of our country. Make America great again. When they criticize it, they say, we're going to try and stop MAGA. I said, MAGA is making America great again. What are you going to stop? There's nothing to stop. Then they say, oh, that's right. It's very tough to fight it. And all of the people that did try and fight it have failed. But he's going to be with us for a long time, and it was an honor to select him. Great, great student at Yale. His wife was a great student at Yale. They met at Yale. These are two smart people. So, J.D., you're going to be doing this for a long time. Enjoy the ride. And a very special thank you to the extraordinary people of Milwaukee and the great state of... Oh, there they are. There they are. You are so easy to spot. And Green Bay's going to have a good team this year, right? They're going to have a good team. They're going to have a good team. Most of the audience doesn't like it, but it's true. You're going to have a very good team this year. And by the way, Wisconsin, we are spending over $250 million here, creating jobs and other economic development all over the place. So I hope you will remember this in November and give us your vote. I am trying to buy your vote. I'll be honest about that. And I promise we will make Wisconsin great again. We're going to make it. Thank you, Mr. Governor. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm here tonight to lay out a vision for the whole nation. To every citizen, whether you're a young or old man or woman, Democrat, Republican, or independent, black or white, Asian or Hispanic, I extend to you a hand of loyalty and of friendship. Together we will lead America to new heights of greatness like the world has never seen before. We were right there in the first term. We got hit with COVID. We did a great job. Nobody knew what it was, but nobody's ever seen an economy pre-COVID. And then we handed over a stock market that was substantially higher than just prior to COVID. Coming in, did a great job. Never got credit for that. We got credit for the war and defeating ISIS and so many things. The great economy, the biggest tax cuts ever, the biggest regulation cuts ever, the creation of Space Force, the rebuilding of our military. We did so much. We did so much. Right to try. Right to try is a big deal. We got right to try. They were trying to get that for 52 years. Somebody's terminally ill, and hopefully there's nobody in this audience, but it does happen a lot. They're terminally ill and they can't use our new space-age drugs and other things that we are way ahead. We have the greatest doctors in the world, the greatest laboratories in the world, and you can't do it. They've been trying to get that approved for 52 years. Wasn't that easy? The insurance companies didn't want to do it. They didn't want the risk. The labs didn't want to do it because if it didn't work, people are pretty far down the line toward death. They didn't want to do it. The doctors didn't want to have it on their records, so I got everybody into an office. 52 years they tried. Sounds simple, but it's not. And I got them to agree that somebody that needs it will, instead of going to Asia, Europe, or someplace, or if you have no money going home and dying, just die. We got them to sign an agreement, agree to it, where they're not going to sue anybody. They're going to get all of this stuff. They're going to get it really fast. And what's happened is we're saving thousands and thousands of lives. It's incredible. Right to try. It's a great feeling. Under our leadership, the United States will be respected again. No nation will question our power. No enemy will doubt our might. Our borders will be totally secure. Our economy will soar. We will return law and order to our streets, patriotism to our schools, and importantly, we will restore peace, stability, and harmony all throughout the world. But to achieve this future, we must first rescue our nation from failed and even incompetent leadership. We have totally incompetent leadership. This will be the most important election in the history of our country. Under the current administration, we are indeed a nation in decline. We have an inflation crisis that is making life unaffordable, ravaging the incomes of working and low-income families, and crushing, just simply crushing our people like never before. They've never seen anything like it. We also have an illegal immigration crisis, and it's taking place right now as we sit here in this beautiful arena. It's a massive invasion at our southern border that has spread misery, crime, poverty, disease, and destruction to communities all across our land. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Then there's an international crisis, the likes of which the world has seldom been part of. Nobody can believe what's happening. War is now raging in Europe and the Middle East. A growing specter of conflict hangs over Taiwan, Korea, the Philippines, and all of Asia, and our planet is teetering on the edge of World War III, and this will be a war like no other war because of weaponry. The weapons are no longer army tanks going back and forth shooting at each other. These weapons are obliteration. It's time for a change. This administration can't come close to solving the problems. We're dealing with very tough, very fierce people. They're fierce people. And we don't have fierce people. We have people that are a lot less than fierce, except when it comes to cheating on elections and a couple of other things. Then they're fierce. Then they're fierce. So tonight, I make this pledge to the great people of America. I will end the devastating inflation crisis immediately, bring down interest rates, and lower the cost of energy. We will drill, baby, drill. Can you believe what they're doing? But by doing that, we will lead a large-scale decline in prices. Prices will start to come down. Energy raised it. They took our energy policies and destroyed them. Then they immediately went back to them, but by that time, so much was lost. But we will do it at levels that nobody's ever seen before, and we'll end lots of different things. We'll start paying off debt and start lowering taxes even further. We gave you the largest tax cut. We'll do it more. You know, people don't realize I brought taxes way down, way down, and yet we took in more revenues the following year than we did when the tax rate was much higher. Most people said, how did you do that? Because it was incentive. Everybody was coming to the country. They were bringing back billions and billions of dollars into our country. The companies made it impossible to bring it back. The tax rate was too high, and the legal complications were far too great. I changed both of them, and hundreds of billions of dollars by Apple and so many other companies were brought back into our nation, and we had an economy the likes of which no nation had ever seen. China, we were beating them at levels that were incredible. And they know it. They know it. We'll do it again, but we'll do it even better. I will end the illegal immigration crisis by closing our border and finishing the wall, most of which I've already built. On the wall, we were dealing with a very difficult Congress. And I said, oh, that's okay. We won't go to Congress. I call it an invasion. We gave our military almost $800 billion. I said, I'm going to take a little of that money because this is an invasion. And we built, most of the wall is already built. And we built it through using the funds because what's better than that? We have to stop the invasion into our country that's killing hundreds of thousands of people a year. We're not going to let that happen. I will end every single international crisis that the current administration has created, including the horrible war with Russia and Ukraine, which would have never happened if I was president. And the war caused by the attack on Israel, which would have never happened if I was president. Iran was broke. Iran had no money. Now Iran has $250 billion. They made it all over the last 2.5 years. They were broke. I watched the other day on a show called Deface the Nation. Has anyone seen it? And they had a congressman who was a Democrat say, well, whether you like him or not, Iran was broke dealing with Trump. I told China and other countries, if you buy from Iran, we will not let you do any business in this country, and we will put tariffs on every product you do send in of 100% or more. And they said to me, well, I think that's about it. They weren't going to buy any oil. And they were ready to make a deal. Iran was going to make a deal with us. And then we had that horrible, horrible result that we'll never let happen again. The election result, we're never going to let that happen again. They used COVID to cheat. We're never going to let it happen again. And they took off all the sanctions, and they did everything possible for Iran. And now Iran is very close to having a nuclear weapon, which would have never happened. This is a shame what this administration, the damage that this administration has done. And I say it often, if you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States, think of it, the 10 worst, added them up, they will not have done the damage that Biden has done. Only going to use the term once. Biden. I'm not going to use the name anymore, just one time. The damage that he's done to this country is unthinkable. It's unthinkable. Together we will restore vision, strength, competence, and we're going to have a thing called common sense making most of our decisions, actually. It's all common sense. Just a few short years ago, under my presidency, we had the most secure border and best economy in the history of our country, in the history of the world. We had the greatest economy in the history of the world. We had never done anything like it. We were beating every country, including China, by leaps and bounds. Nobody had seen anything like it. We had no inflation. Soaring incomes were going. Nobody can believe it. You can't believe what happened 4 years ago is happening in reverse. And the world was at peace. Inflation has been a killer for our country. No matter what you make it doesn't matter, because inflation is eating you alive. People that were putting away money, they were making great wages, the highest they've ever made, but they were putting away a lot of money. Now they are just being destroyed. They're not putting away anything. They're barely living. They're going into savings accounts. They're taking out their money to live because of inflation. Inflation, remember, it's called a country buster. You can go back to Germany from 100 years ago. You can go back to any country that suffered great inflation. We've suffered the worst inflation we've ever had. But go back and see what's happened to those countries. We've had the worst inflation we've ever had under this person. But in less than 4 years, our opponents have turned incredible success into unparalleled tragedy and failure. It's been a tremendous failure. Today, our cities are flooded with illegal aliens. Americans are being squeezed out of the labor force, and their jobs are taken. And by the way, you know who's taking the jobs that are created? 107% of those jobs are taken by illegal aliens. And you know who's being hurt the most by millions of people pouring into our country? The black population and the Hispanic population, because they're taking the jobs from our black population, our Hispanic population, and they're also taking them from unions. The unions are suffering because of it. Thank you. Thank you. I like you too. Thank you very much. Inflation has wiped out the life savings of our citizens and forced the middle class into a state of depression and despair. That's what it is. It's despair and depression. We cannot and will not let this continue. Less than 4 years ago, we were a great nation, and we will soon be a great nation again. We're going to be a great nation again. Thank you. With proper leadership, every disaster we are now enduring will be fixed, and it will be fixed very, very quickly. So tonight, whether you've supported me in the past or not, I hope you will support me in the future, because I will bring back the American dream. That's what we're going to do. You don't even hear about the American dream anymore. With great humility, I am asking you to be excited about the future of our country. Be excited. Be excited. And by the way, the news reports, look at all of those big networks, look at them, they're all here. But every one of them has said this could be the most organized, best run, and most enthusiastic convention of either party that they've ever seen. Every single one. And it's true. It's true. And there's love in the room. There's great love in the room. So I better finish strong. Otherwise, we'll blow it. And we can't let that happen. Now, this was great. All of the great people.